I walked down the aisle in my beautiful white dress, looking into the eyes of the man I loved with all my heart. But I had no idea that in just a few hours, I would be running out of my own wedding reception, never to return. And the person who destroyed everything. She was standing right there, smiling at me, holding a small velvet box. My name is Sarah, and I'm about to tell you a story that I never thought I'd share with anyone. It's the story of how one night, one party, and one woman's cruelty changed the course of my life forever. But before I get to that night, I need to take you back to the beginning, because that's where all stories really start. I met Michael when I was 23 years old. I was working as a graphic designer at a small marketing firm in Chicago, and he was a junior partner at a law firm just down the street. We met at a coffee shop during my lunch break. I was struggling with a stack of papers and trying to balance my laptop while also holding my coffee, and he just appeared out of nowhere, steadying my elbow and preventing what would have been a very embarrassing spill. His eyes were the kind of blue that made you think of summer skies, and his smile was warm enough to melt the Chicago winter chill that still clung to my bones. We talked for 15 minutes that day, and I felt like I had known him my entire life. He asked for my number, and I gave it to him without a second thought. Our first date was at a little Italian restaurant that he said had the best pasta in the city. He was right about the pasta, but what I remember most was the way he looked at me when I talked. He listened like what I had to say was the most important thing in the world. He laughed at my jokes, even the bad ones, and he told me stories about his childhood that made me feel like I was getting to know the real him. Those first few months with Michael were magical. We would spend hours walking along the lakefront, talking about everything and nothing. He would surprise me with little gifts, nothing expensive, just things that reminded him of me. A book by my favorite author, a scarf in my favorite color, a silly magnet from a place we had talked about visiting together. He made me feel seen in a way I had never felt before. He made me feel like I was the most important person in the world. 3 months into our relationship, I met his mother. I had heard about allure before I met her. Michael talked about her often, but there was always a hesitancy in his voice, a carefulness in his words that I didn't quite understand. He said she was a strong woman, a successful businesswoman who had built her real estate company from the ground up after his father left them when Michael was just a boy. He spoke of her with a mixture of admiration and something else, something that I couldn't quite put my finger on at the time. I know now that it was fear. The first time I met allure, I dressed carefully. I wore my best dress, a navy blue number that my mother had helped me pick out for job interviews. I did my hair in a neat bun and put on just enough makeup to look polished but not overdone. I wanted to make a good impression. I was nervous, but I was also hopeful. Michael had told me that his mother was very protective of him, and I understood that. I wanted her to see that I was good enough for her son. We met at her house, a sprawling mansion in one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Chicago. The house was all glass and steel, modern and cold, with not a single picture or personal item in sight. It looked more like a showroom than a home. Allure greeted us at the door, and my first thought was that she looked exactly how I had imagined. She was tall and slender, with sharp features and perfectly styled silver hair. Her clothes were expensive, her jewelry was real, and her smile was about as warm as the icy winter wind outside. She kissed Michael on both cheeks, holding onto his shoulders like she was claiming him. Her eyes swept over me in a way that made me feel like I was being appraised and found wanting. "So this is Sarah," she said, her voice smooth as glass. "Michael has told me so much about you." I extended my hand for a handshake, but she just looked at it for a moment before turning back to Michael. "I've prepared your favorite, darling, the roast beef with the au jus. I know how much you love it." I let my hand fall to my side, feeling foolish. Michael gave me an apologetic look, but I could see that he was already falling into a different version of himself. Quieter, more careful, like a child trying not to wake a sleeping bear. Dinner was uncomfortable. Allure asked me questions, but they weren't friendly questions. They were interrogations. Where did I go to school? What did my parents do? How much money did I make? Did I come from a good family? She asked these questions with a smile on her face, but her eyes were cold and calculating. I tried to answer as gracefully as I could, but I could feel myself shrinking under her gaze. My parents were middle-class people. My father was a mechanic, my mother a schoolteacher. We had a comfortable life, but we weren't wealthy. We were a loving family, but Alina's questions made it clear that love wasn't what she was looking for. After dinner, Alina poured herself a glass of wine and made no offer to pour one for me. She sat across from me in her expensive living room, her legs crossed, looking at me like I was something she had scraped off her shoe. "You know, Michael had a lovely girlfriend before you," she said, taking a sip of her wine. "Victoria, her family owns a chain of hotels on the East Coast, such a refined young woman, beautiful, educated, well-bred." I felt my cheeks flush. "I'm sure she was lovely," I managed to say. "She was," Alina agreed. "But Michael has always been impulsive. He sees something shiny and he wants it, regardless of whether it's good for him." I looked at Michael, hoping he would say something, but he was staring at his hands, his jaw tight. I realized then that this was the pattern. Michael would bring a girlfriend home, Alina would tear her apart, and eventually the girlfriend would leave. It wasn't the first time she had done this, and it wouldn't be the last. I left Alina's house that night with a sinking feeling in my stomach. I knew that I was in love with Michael, and I knew that he loved me, but I also knew that his mother was going to be a problem. I just didn't know yet just how big of a problem she would become. Over the next year, Alina's behavior toward me got worse. She would invite Michael to dinner and forget to include me. She would make comments about my clothes, my hair, my job, everything. She would call Michael at all hours of the night, interrupting our time together. She was relentless, and I could see that it was taking a toll on Michael. But I loved him, and I wasn't going to give up without a fight. I tried everything I could think of to win Alina over. I brought her gifts on her birthday. I offered to help her with parties she was hosting. I was polite and kind and patient, even when she was being cruel. Nothing worked. I remember one particular incident that still makes my heart ache when I think about it. It was Thanksgiving, and Michael had invited me to spend it with his family. I was so excited. I spent days preparing, making my grandmother's famous sweet potato casserole from scratch. I wanted to contribute something special, something that showed I was trying to be part of the family. When I arrived at Alina's house with my casserole, she took one look at it and smiled that cold smile of hers. "Oh, how rustic," she said. "We usually have more sophisticated dishes for Thanksgiving, but I'm sure this will be fine for the help." I stood there, holding my casserole, feeling like I had been punched in the gut. The help. She had called me the help. Michael was in the other room, talking to one of his uncles, and he didn't hear what she said. I didn't tell him. I didn't want to cause trouble. The whole dinner, Alina made snide comments about my cooking. She said the casserole was too sweet, too lumpy, too something. She made sure everyone at the table knew that I had brought it, and she made sure everyone knew that it wasn't good enough for her table. I ate my dinner in silence, smiling when I was supposed to smile, nodding when I was supposed to nod. But inside, I was dying. I was dying a slow death, and Alina was the one holding the knife. After dinner, I excused myself to the bathroom. I locked the door and I cried. I cried so hard that I couldn't breathe. I looked at myself in the mirror, at my red-rimmed eyes and smeared mascara, and I asked myself what I was doing. Why was I putting myself through this? Why was I letting this woman destroy me? But then I thought about Michael. I thought about the way he looked at me, the way he held me, the way he made me feel like I was the only woman in the world, and I knew why I was doing it. I was doing it for him. I was doing it for us. I cleaned myself up, fixed my makeup, and went back to the table. I smiled at Alina like nothing had happened. I smiled at Michael like everything was fine, and I kept smiling even though I was dying inside. One evening, Michael proposed to me. We were at our favorite spot, a little overlook near the lake, and he got down on one knee and asked me to be his wife. I said yes without hesitation, even though I knew what it meant. I would have to deal with Alina for the rest of my life. But I was willing to do it because I loved Michael more than I feared his mother. When we told Alina about our engagement, she didn't say congratulations. She didn't smile. She looked at me with pure hatred in her eyes, and then she looked at Michael as if he had betrayed her. "Marriage is a serious commitment, Michael," she said, her voice cold. Are you sure you're making the right decision? I had never seen Michael stand up to his mother before, but that night, he did. He took my hand and looked her straight in the eye. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, he said. Sarah is the woman I want to marry. Eleanor didn't speak to us for a month after that, but when she did finally reach out, it was to offer to throw us an engagement party. She said she wanted to welcome me into the family properly. It seemed too good to be true, and I was suspicious. But Michael was so happy that she was finally coming around that I didn't have the heart to argue. Looking back now, I can see all the warning signs. I can see all the red flags that I ignored because I wanted so badly to believe that Eleanor had changed. I wanted so badly to believe that we could be a family. But the truth was, Eleanor had not changed. She was just changing her strategy. She realized that being openly hostile wasn't working, so she decided to be more subtle. She decided to smile to my face while plotting my destruction behind my back. The party was set for a Saturday night at Eleanor's mansion. She told me to invite my family, to bring my friends, that she wanted to meet everyone. She told me not to worry about a thing, that she would handle all the details. I should have known better. I should have seen what was coming. But I was hopeful. I wanted so badly to believe that Eleanor had finally accepted me. I spent weeks preparing for that party. I bought a beautiful dress, a deep emerald green that Michael said brought out my eyes. I had my hair done, my makeup professionally applied. I wanted to look perfect. I wanted to make Eleanor proud. My parents drove in from out of town. My mother was so excited to meet the famous Eleanor who had raised such a wonderful son. My father had his reservations, but he kept them to himself because he could see how happy I was. My best friend Jenna came with her husband Tom, and they were just as excited as I was. The night of the party arrived, and I was a bundle of nerves. We drove to Eleanor's house, and I could see that there were already cars lining the street. The house was lit up like a Christmas tree, and music was drifting through the open windows. It looked beautiful. It looked like the beginning of a new chapter. Eleanor greeted us at the door, and I was surprised to see her smiling. Actually smiling. She kissed Michael, and then, to my shock, she kissed me on the cheek. "Welcome, Sarah," she said. "You look lovely tonight. Come in, everyone is here." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Maybe I had been wrong about Eleanor. Maybe she really was coming around. Maybe this night was going to be the beginning of a beautiful new relationship. I was so wrong. The first hour of the party was fine. I introduced Eleanor to my parents, and she was gracious and charming. She complimented my mother's dress and told my father that he had raised a lovely daughter. She introduced me to her friends and business associates, and everyone seemed pleased to meet me. But then, as the night wore on, I started to notice things. Eleanor's friends were looking at me strangely. They would smile at me, but there was something behind the smile that made me uncomfortable. People would whisper to each other when I walked by. I started to feel like I was the subject of some joke that everyone else was in on except for me. I found Michael in the crowd and pulled him aside. "Is it just me, or are people acting weird?" I asked. He looked around and shrugged. "I think you're just nervous, honey. Everything is fine. Everyone loves you." I wanted to believe him, but my gut was telling me something was wrong. I couldn't shake the feeling that Eleanor was up to something. I watched her as she moved through the crowd, all grace and charm, and I tried to convince myself that I was being paranoid. My mother came up to me and took my hand. "Sweetie, are you okay? You look pale." "I'm fine, Mom," I said, forcing a smile. "Just a little nervous." She squeezed my hand. "Don't be nervous. You're beautiful. You're wonderful. Everyone is going to love you." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that everything was going to be okay. But deep down, I knew that something terrible was about to happen. I could feel it in my bones. It was around 9 o'clock when everything changed. Eleanor called for everyone's attention. She stood at the front of the room, holding a champagne glass, her face lit up with a smile that I now recognize as the smile of someone about to deliver a killing blow. "Thank you all for coming tonight," she said, her voice carrying through the room. "As you all know, my son Michael is getting married, and tonight we are celebrating his engagement to Sarah." People applauded. I smiled and waved. I thought everything was fine. "Before we go any further," Eleanor continued. I thought it might be nice to share a few words about the happy couple. Michael, my sweet boy, is the most wonderful son a mother could ask for. He's smart, kind, successful, and he deserves the very best in life. She paused and looked right at me. Her smile never wavered, but her eyes were hard as diamonds. And Sarah, she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Sarah is certainly something. I'm sure she's very nice in her own way, but I think we all need to be honest about what's happening here. The room went quiet. I could feel the air shift, like the moment before a storm breaks. Michael is a successful lawyer, Eleanor said. He's poised to become a partner at his firm. He comes from a good family, a wealthy family, and Sarah, well, Sarah comes from a family of mechanics and school teachers. There's nothing wrong with that, of course, but we all know that Michael could do so much better. I felt like I had been slapped. My face went hot and my hands started to shake. I looked at Michael, but he was frozen, his face pale. I looked at my parents. My mother's face was white as a sheet. My father's jaw was tight, and I could see his hands clenching into fists. Jenna was staring at Eleanor with her mouth open in shock. Now, I don't want to sound cruel, Eleanor continued, pretending to be delicate. I'm just being honest. Michael deserves a wife who can help him advance his career, a wife who comes from the right background, a wife who knows how to navigate the social circles that Michael will need to move in. Sarah is a lovely girl, but she is not that wife. People in the crowd started to murmur. I could hear whispers. I could see people looking at me with pity and embarrassment. I wanted to run. I wanted to disappear, but I couldn't move. I was frozen, just like Michael. Here's the thing about Sarah, Eleanor said, and now her voice was getting harder, crueler. She's been trying so hard to be something she's not. She showed up to my house in her best dress, trying to pretend she belonged here. She smiled at my friends and pretended to be interested in their business. But we all know she doesn't belong. She never belonged. She was just a girl from the wrong side of the tracks who got lucky enough to catch my son's eye. And now she's trying to trap him in a marriage that he will eventually regret. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. I looked at Michael, waiting for him to say something, to defend me, to do anything. But he just stood there, frozen, his mouth slightly open, as if he couldn't believe what was happening. I'm not trying to be mean, Eleanor said, and she actually had the audacity to look sad. I'm just looking out for my son. It's what any good mother would do. And I think it's time for everyone to be honest about what this marriage really is. A mistake. The room was dead silent. I could feel every pair of eyes on me. I could feel the weight of Eleanor's words crushing me. I could feel the tears starting to burn in my eyes. I looked at Michael one more time. I waited for him to say something. I waited for him to stand up for me. I waited for him to tell his mother that she was wrong. But he didn't say anything. He just stood there, looking at me with helpless eyes. And then something in me snapped. I had been trying so hard. I had been so patient. I had endured months of Eleanor's cruelty, and I had never once fought back. But this was too much. This was a public execution. She had invited my family, my friends, and then she had humiliated me in front of all of them. I took a deep breath and I walked over to where Eleanor was standing. I looked right into her eyes, and for the first time, I didn't try to be polite. I didn't try to be nice. You're right, Eleanor, I said, and my voice was surprisingly steady. I'm not from a wealthy family. My parents are hardworking people who taught me to be honest, to be kind, and to never, ever hurt other people for my own amusement. So maybe I don't belong in your world. Maybe I don't know how to play your little games. But you know what? I'd rather be a mechanic's daughter than a woman who has to tear other people down to feel good about herself. Eleanor's smile faltered for just a moment. She hadn't expected me to fight back. I turned to Michael. I don't know if you're going to stand up for me, I said. I don't know if you're going to tell your mother that she's wrong, but I do know that I deserve better than this. I deserve someone who will defend me. I deserve someone who won't let me be humiliated in front of everyone I love. Michael took a step toward me. Sarah, But I cut him off. I need some air. I walked out of that room, out of that house, into the cold Chicago night. I could hear someone calling my name behind me, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. I had to get away. The cold air hit my face like a slap, and I welcomed it. I welcomed the pain because it was better than the pain I was feeling inside. I walked down the driveway, my heels clicking on the pavement, my beautiful emerald dress billowing in the wind. I heard footsteps behind me. It was Jenna. "Sarah, wait, please wait." I stopped and turned around. Jenna was running toward me, her face full of concern. "Sarah, are you okay? That woman is insane. She's absolutely insane." I shook my head. "I can't do this, Jenna. I can't marry into this family. I can't spend my whole life being humiliated by that woman." Jenna grabbed my shoulders. "Listen to me. You are one of the strongest women I know. You have put up with so much from that woman, and you have never once stooped to her level. You are better than her. You are better than all of them. Don't let her win. Don't let her destroy what you and Michael have." "But Michael didn't say anything," I said, my voice cracking. "He just stood there. He let her say all those terrible things, and he didn't say a word." Jenna sighed. "I know, and that's something you two are going to have to work through. But don't make any decisions tonight. You're emotional, you're hurt. Give yourself some time to think." I knew she was right. I was emotional. I was hurt. But I also knew that I couldn't stay in that house for another second. "I need to go," I said. "I need to be alone." Jenna hugged me. "Call me if you need anything. I mean it, anything." I nodded and walked away. I walked for what felt like hours. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew that I couldn't stay in that house for another second. I thought about everything that had happened. I thought about all the times I had tried to win Alina over. I thought about all the times I had been patient and kind and understanding. And I realized that I had been a fool. Alina had never been going to accept me. She had been playing a long game, and I had fallen right into her trap. My phone started ringing. It was Michael. I let it go to voicemail. He called again, and again, and again. I finally turned my phone off. I needed to think. I needed to figure out what I was going to do. I ended up at a little park near the lake. I sat on a bench and watched the water and tried to make sense of everything that had happened. My whole life had been turned upside down in a single night. I thought about Michael. I loved him. I really did. But I also knew that love wasn't enough. If he wasn't going to stand up to his mother, then nothing was going to change. I would always be second place to Alina. I would always be the girl who wasn't good enough. I stayed in that park until the sun started to come up. I watched the sunrise over the lake, and I made a decision. I was going to give Michael one more chance. I was going to talk to him, and I was going to tell him exactly what I needed from him. If he couldn't give it to me, then I would walk away. I went home that night and I cried myself to sleep. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. I was going to talk to Michael. I was going to give him one chance to make things right. And if he couldn't, if he wouldn't, then I was going to walk away. Michael showed up at my apartment at 8 in the morning. His eyes were red, and he looked like he hadn't slept at all. He started talking before he was even in the door. "Sarah, I'm so sorry," he said. "I should have said something. I should have defended you. I froze. I didn't know what to do." I nodded. "I understand that she's your mother. I understand that you love her. But Michael, I need to know that you're going to stand by me. I need to know that when she says terrible things about me, you're going to stop her. I can't live like this. I can't spend my whole life being humiliated by your mother." "I know," he said. "I know. I told her that I'm marrying you no matter what. I told her that if she can't accept you, then she's going to lose me. I stood up to her, Sarah. I really did." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that everything was going to be okay. But I also knew that Alina was a master manipulator. She wasn't going to give up that easily. She was going to find another way to tear us apart. I just didn't know what it was yet. We decided to push forward with our wedding plans. Alina, to my surprise, started pretending that the party had never happened. She called me and apologized, saying that she was just stressed and that she hadn't meant what she said. I didn't believe her, but I was willing to try to move on for Michael's sake. The next few months were a blur of wedding planning. Michael and I were determined to have a beautiful wedding, and we were going to do it our way. We didn't ask Alina for any help. We didn't want to give her the opportunity to cause any more drama. My mother was my rock during those months. She helped me pick out the flowers, the invitations, the cake. She listened to me when I fretted about Alina's next move. She held my hand when I had doubts. "Sweetie," she said one day, "are you sure about this? Are you sure you want to marry into that family?" I looked at her, and I could see the concern in her eyes. She had seen what Alina had done to me at the engagement party. She had seen the way I had crumbled. "I love him, Mom," I said. "I really do. And I hope that things will be different once we're married. I think Alina will accept it eventually." My mother sighed. "I hope so too, sweetie. But just remember, you always have a home here. You always have a family that loves you." I hugged her. "I know, Mom, I know." On the day of the wedding, I stood in my dressing room, looking at myself in the mirror. My dress was beautiful, a white lace gown that I had fallen in love with the moment I saw it. My mother was there, helping me with my veil, and my father was waiting outside to walk me down the aisle. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was going to happen. I had tried to push Alina out of my mind, but she was always there, lurking in the background. I knew she was at the wedding. I knew she was watching. And I knew she was planning something. My mother saw the worry on my face. "What's wrong, sweetie?" "I don't know, Mom," I said. "I just have a bad feeling. What if Alina does something? What if she ruins the wedding?" My mother took my face in her hands. "Listen to me. You are a beautiful, strong, wonderful woman. You deserve to be happy. Don't let that woman steal your joy. This is your day. This is your wedding. Don't let her ruin it." I took a deep breath. "You're right, Mom, you're right." The ceremony was perfect. Michael looked handsome, and he didn't look away from me once. He said his vows with so much feeling that I actually cried. I thought about how happy we were going to be. I thought about all the years ahead of us. I thought that maybe Alina had finally accepted our relationship. I was wrong. The trouble didn't start until after the ceremony, when we were at the reception. I had just finished my first dance with Michael, and I was starting to relax. I was finally starting to believe that everything was going to be okay. And then Alina approached me with a smile. "Congratulations, Sarah," she said. "You look lovely." I tensed up. "Thank you." "I have a little gift for you," she said. "A wedding present. I hope you'll like it." She handed me a small box. I opened it carefully, expecting a piece of jewelry or something nice. Inside was a note and a picture. The picture was of Michael with a beautiful, glamorous woman. They were in a restaurant, and they looked very close. My hand started to shake. "What is this?" I asked. "This is a picture of Victoria," Alina said, her voice sweet. "She's back in town. She and Michael have been spending quite a bit of time together. I thought you should know. You know, just in case you wanted to reconsider your decision to marry into this family." I looked at Michael. He was talking to some guests on the other side of the room. He had no idea what was happening. "I don't believe you," I said. "Michael loves me. He wouldn't do this." Alina smiled. "Of course he loves you. He's a good boy, but he's also a man, and men have needs. Victoria is, well, she's everything you're not. She's beautiful, sophisticated, wealthy. She's the kind of woman Michael needs by his side. You're just a nice girl from a middle-class family. You don't really think you're going to keep him interested for long, do you?" I felt the same feeling I had felt at the engagement party. The feeling of being crushed, humiliated, destroyed. But this time, it was worse. This time, it was my wedding day. This time, Alina had chosen the most important day of my life to try to tear me down. I walked over to Michael and pulled him aside. I showed him the picture. "What is this?" I asked. "Your mother just gave this to me. She says you've been spending time with Victoria. She says you've been seeing her behind my back." Michael looked at the picture and his face went white. "Sarah, this isn't what you think. I ran into Victoria at a restaurant. It was completely accidental. I was there with some colleagues and she was there. We had dinner together, but it was just a friendly dinner. There's nothing going on." "Then why did your mother say you've been spending time with her?" I demanded. "I don't know," he said. "She's lying. She's trying to cause trouble. Please, Sarah, you have to believe me. I love you. I would never, ever cheat on you." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But I was so tired. I was so tired of fighting. I was so tired of Alina and her games. I was so tired of feeling like I wasn't good enough. I looked at Michael, and I realized that this was never going to end. Alina would always be there, sabotaging our marriage. She would always find a way to make my life miserable. And no matter how much Michael loved me, he would never be able to stop her. I can't do this, I said. I can't spend my whole life fighting your mother. I can't always be waiting for the next thing she's going to do to hurt me. Sarah, please, Michael begged. Don't do this. We just got married. We made vows. I love you. Please don't let her win. I looked at him and I felt tears start to stream down my face. I loved him. I really did. But love wasn't enough. It had never been enough. I'm sorry, I whispered. I can't. I ran out of the reception hall. I could hear Michael calling my name, but I didn't look back. I just kept running. I could hear people gasping as I ran past them. I could hear my mother calling my name. I could hear Jenna shouting for me to stop. But I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. I just kept running. I ran all the way to the parking lot. I got in my car and I drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew that I couldn't stay there. I couldn't be in that place, in that dress, on that day, knowing that everything had fallen apart. I drove for hours. I drove until I was out of the city. I drove until I was in the middle of nowhere. I finally pulled over on the side of the road and I just sat there, staring at nothing. I thought about everything that had happened. I thought about all the times I had tried to win Alina over. I thought about all the times I had been patient and kind and understanding. And I realized that I had been a fool. Alina had never been going to accept me. She had been playing a long game, and I had fallen right into her trap. I thought about Michael. I loved him. I really did. But I also knew that love wasn't enough. If he wasn't going to stand up to his mother, then nothing was going to change. I would always be second place to Alina. I would always be the girl who wasn't good enough. I thought about my parents. I thought about how disappointed they must be. I thought about how much money they had spent on the wedding. I thought about how my mother had helped me plan everything, how my father had walked me down the aisle, how they had both been so happy for me. And now it was all ruined, all of it because of Alina. I sat in my car for hours. I didn't cry. I was too numb to cry. I just sat there, staring at nothing, feeling like my whole world had collapsed around me. Eventually, I started the car and drove home. I drove back to my apartment, and I didn't leave for 3 days. I couldn't face anyone. I couldn't face the humiliation of having left my own wedding. I couldn't face the fact that my marriage had ended before it even really began. My mother came to see me. She didn't say anything. She just sat with me and let me cry. She held my hand and told me that everything was going to be okay. She told me that I was strong, that I would get through this. But I didn't feel strong. I felt broken. I felt like a fool. I stayed in bed for days. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my mind. I thought about all the things I could have done differently. I thought about all the signs I had ignored. I thought about how I had let Alina destroy me. Jenna came to see me too. She brought soup and bread and forced me to eat. She sat with me and talked to me about nothing, just to keep my mind off everything. She told me that I was going to get through this, that I was stronger than I knew. But I didn't feel strong. I felt weak. I felt like I had failed. 2 weeks after the wedding, I called Michael and told him that I wanted to annul the marriage. He came over to my apartment, and he tried to convince me to give him another chance. He told me that he would cut ties with his mother. He told me that we could start over somewhere new. Sarah, please, he begged. I love you. I can't lose you. Please don't do this. I looked at him and I could see the pain in his eyes. I knew he loved me. I knew he meant what he was saying. But I also knew that it wasn't going to work. Michael, I said, your mother is always going to be there. She's always going to find a way to come between us. And I can't keep fighting her. I can't keep being humiliated. I can't keep feeling like I'm not good enough. But you are good enough, he said. You're more than good enough. You're everything. You're my everything. I shook my head. Then why didn't you stand up for me? Why did you let her say all those terrible things at the engagement party? Why did you let her give me that picture on our wedding day? I froze, he said. I didn't know what to do. I was so shocked. I couldn't believe she was doing it. I didn't know how to stop her. Exactly, I said. You didn't know how to stop her, and you're never going to know how to stop her. She's been controlling you your whole life, Michael. She's never going to stop. And I can't live like that. I looked at him and I felt tears start to stream down my face. I loved him. I really did. But love wasn't enough. It had never been enough. I'm sorry, I whispered. I love you, I will always love you, but I can't do this. Your mother has won, I'm just not strong enough to fight her. Michael didn't argue. He just nodded, his eyes full of tears. He knew I was right. The annulment went through quickly. We didn't fight over money or property. There wasn't anything to fight over. We just signed the papers and went our separate ways. For a while, I was lost. I didn't know what to do with myself. I had spent so much time and energy trying to win Aliner's approval that I had forgotten who I was. I had forgotten what I wanted. I started going to therapy. I needed to process everything that had happened. I needed to understand why I had let Allure treat me so badly. I needed to learn how to stand up for myself. My therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Patterson, helped me understand a lot of things. She helped me see that my desire to be accepted by Allure was rooted in my own insecurities. I had always felt like I wasn't good enough, and Allure had exploited that. "You are enough," Dr. Patterson told me. "You are enough just as you are. You don't need anyone's approval to be worthy. You don't need to change who you are to be loved." I cried when she said that. I cried because I had spent so long believing the opposite. I had spent so long trying to be someone I wasn't, trying to please someone who was never going to be pleased. It took a long time, but eventually I started to heal. I started to rebuild my life. I focused on my career, and I got a promotion at work. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones. I started to travel, to see the world, to do all the things I had put on hold while I was trying to be the perfect daughter-in-law. I went to Europe for the first time. I walked along the Seine in Paris, I climbed the Spanish Steps in Rome, I watched the sun set over the Greek islands. I felt free for the first time in years. I felt like I was finally becoming myself again. I also started dating again. It wasn't easy at first. I was scared. I was scared of being hurt again. I was scared of getting involved with another man who couldn't stand up to his mother. But I knew I couldn't let my experience with Allure ruin my chance at happiness. I dated a few men, but none of them felt right. There was always something missing. I was starting to think that I would never find love again, that I was destined to be alone. And then, 2 years after the annulment, I got a phone call that changed everything. It was Michael. He sounded different, older, sadder. "I need to see you," he said. "It's important." I was nervous, but I agreed to meet him. We met at a coffee shop, the same one where we had first met. We sat at the same table, and for a moment, I felt like I had been transported back in time. Michael looked at me, and I could see the pain in his eyes. "I wanted to tell you that my mother is dying," he said. "She has cancer. It's terminal. She only has a few weeks left." I didn't know what to say. I had spent so much time hating Allure that I had forgotten that she was a real person, a person with a life and a death. Michael told me that Allure had changed. He told me that cancer had humbled her and that she had apologized for everything she had done. She had told Michael that she regretted the way she had treated me. She had told him that I was a good woman and that she had been wrong to try to drive me away. Michael reached out and took my hand. "She wants to see you," he said. "She wants to apologize to you in person. She wants to make things right." I was shocked. I didn't know what to think. Part of me wanted to say no. Part of me was still so angry at Allure. But another part of me, the part that had been working so hard to heal, knew that this was my chance to finally let go of the past. I went to see Allure in the hospital. She was a shadow of the woman I had known. The cancer had wasted away her body, but her eyes were clear, and they held a regret that I had never seen before. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was so wrong about you. I was so cruel. I was so consumed by my own pride and jealousy that I couldn't see how wonderful you were. I couldn't see how much you loved Michael. I couldn't see how much you deserved to be happy." I sat there, listening, and I felt something shift inside me. I had been carrying around so much anger and hurt for so long that I had forgotten what it felt like to let go. "I forgive you," I said, and I meant it. I stayed with Allure until she fell asleep. I watched her, this woman who had caused me so much pain, and I felt something that surprised me. I felt pity. Allure died 3 weeks later. Michael told me that her last words were about me. She asked him to tell me that she was sorry and that she had been wrong. It was a strange thing to hear. All that time, all that pain, all that suffering, and in the end, Alina had finally realized that she had made a mistake. I don't know if I would have been able to forgive her if she hadn't been dying. I don't know if I would have been able to let go of my anger. But I did forgive her. And in forgiving her, I finally set myself free. The story of me and Michael didn't end the way I expected it to. We didn't get back together. We couldn't. Too much had happened. Too much had been broken. But we did become friends. We started having lunch together, catching up, being there for each other. I realized that Michael had been a victim too. He had been trapped between his mother and the woman he loved, and he hadn't been strong enough to break free. I think we both grew from our experiences. I learned to stand up for myself. I learned that I was worthy of love, that I didn't need anyone's approval to be happy. Michael learned that he couldn't let his mother control his life. He stopped being so afraid of her. He started living his own life on his own terms. A few years later, I met someone new. His name was David, and he was everything that Michael wasn't. He was confident, independent, and he had a mother who actually liked me. I met David at a work conference. He was a software engineer from Seattle, and we were paired up for a group project. We spent 3 days working together, and by the end of the conference, I knew that there was something special about him. David was different from any man I had ever met. He was kind, but not weak. He was strong, but not controlling. He listened to me, really listened, and he never made me feel like I was less than him. When I told him about my past, about Alina and Michael and everything that had happened, he didn't judge me. He didn't pity me. He just held my hand and told me that I was brave. To go through all of that and still be able to love, he said, that takes incredible strength. I fell in love with David slowly, carefully. I was afraid to trust again. I was afraid to give my heart to someone who might break it. But David was patient. He understood my fears, and he never pushed me. One night, about a year into our relationship, we were sitting on his balcony, looking at the stars. "Sarah," he said, taking my hand, "I know you've been hurt before. I know you've been through a lot. But I want you to know that I love you and I will never hurt you. I will always stand by you, no matter what." I looked at him, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt safe. "I love you too," I said, and I meant it. We got married in a small ceremony in the park. My parents were there, my friends were there, and I was so happy. David's mother, Patricia, was there too. She was a sweet, kind woman who welcomed me into her family with open arms. She told me that she had always wanted a daughter, and that she was so glad her son had found me. I couldn't believe it. After everything I had been through with Alina, I had finally found a mother-in-law who actually loved me. David and I have been married for 5 years now. We have 2 beautiful children, a boy and a girl. We have a lovely home, a comfortable life, and we are grateful every day for the family we have built. Sometimes, I think about Alina. I think about how different my life could have been if she had just accepted me. I think about all the years of pain and suffering that could have been avoided. But I don't dwell on it. I don't let it consume me. I have a beautiful life, and I am grateful for every moment of it. I don't think about Alina much anymore. When I do, I don't feel anger. I don't feel pain. I just feel a quiet sadness for a woman who was so consumed by her own fears and insecurities that she pushed away the people who could have loved her. I learned a lot from my experience with Alina. I learned that there are people in this world who will try to tear you down, and that you can't let them win. I learned that love isn't always enough, and that sometimes you have to let go of the people you love for your own well-being. I also learned that forgiveness is powerful. It doesn't erase what happened, but it does set you free. My story is not a unique one. There are women all over the world who have been humiliated by their mothers-in-law. There are women who have been made to feel like they weren't good enough. There are women who have been pushed to the brink by the people who were supposed to love them. But my story is also a story of triumph. It's a story of a woman who faced cruelty and humiliation and came out the other side stronger, wiser, and happier. I don't regret marrying Michael. I don't even regret my experience with Alina. It made me who I am. It taught me lessons that I wouldn't have learned any other way. And if I could go back and do it all again, I wouldn't change a thing. Because every moment, even the painful ones, led me to where I am today. and where I am today is a good place. I'm happy, I'm loved, and I've finally learned that I am enough. That's my story. It's not a fairy tale. There's no happy ever after with Michael. There's no magical reconciliation. But there is a happy ever after for me, and that's what matters. Sometimes the best revenge is not revenge at all. Sometimes the best revenge is living a happy life, free from the people who tried to destroy you. I hope that my story can help someone else who is going through a similar situation. I hope that it can give them the strength to stand up for themselves. I hope that it can show them that there is life after humiliation, that there is happiness after heartbreak. And I hope that it can remind them, as I finally reminded myself, that they are worthy of love and respect, no matter what anyone else says. Because in the end, the only person who can decide your worth is you. And I finally decided